Hey, it's Sammy for another episode of the IdOMUSIC podcast, and our goal and our mission is to empower and educate musicians and artists worldwide. And on today's episode, we sat down with executive producer Erika Bryant discussing balancing her internships at Patchwerk and LaFace in her early years, landing her first TV gig with Tyler Perry, and chipping her way up the ladder in TV and film. Hey, it's Sammy for another episode of the IdOMUSIC podcast, and I'm sitting down with executive producer and Patchwerk alum Erika Bryant.
Yes.
How are you?
I'm wonderful. I'm
lovely.
Delicious. How are you?
Excuse me. I am recovering, so.
Ditto. So we both sound like T-Boss today.
It's okay.
Sexified. It's all good.
Well, thank you for sitting down with me. Obviously, I know you're a busy woman. You're actually here wrapping up a show.
Mm-hmm.
So we had to catch you while you were here. And it's
Absolutely.
back in Atlanta.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. I've been here in Atlanta since February, working on The Real World, season 33. And it's an iconic reality show, the first reality show that started in 1992. So for me to come on board, or for them to invite me to come on board as a co-executive producer, was such an honor.
Yeah.
And I was excited when my agent called and was like, hey, they want you to come on. I'm like, wait, what? The Real World? I remember being in high school and watching The Real World with my best friend. So it's such a blessing to, be able to be a part of such an amazing franchise.
Well, let me ask you, how do you think that will play out, being that, they're bringing it back? Reality TV, since it's come, it has not gone.
Right.
It's only just gotten bigger, grown. So how do you think it's going to be received, once it comes out?
I mean, well, praise God that it hasn't gone anywhere, because that's where my whole career's been.
Right.
At least this career, my first career was here at Patchwerk in the music business, and then I jumped over into television and film. But I think it's going to be received well. We're on a different platform. We're going to be on Facebook versus MTV. So MTV will be the studio.
Gotcha.
And then Buno Murray Productions is the production company. Facebook is the platform.
Nice.
So it'll be presented in a whole different way. We'll be using the Facebook stories as well as episodes of 30 minutes long on the Facebook Watch Live. So it'll be awesome.
That's dope. Yeah, I've seen great success with Facebook.
Yeah.
For a table.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's doing well.
Facebook is spending great money, to buy some amazing content. So
That's what's up.
Yeah.
Okay, so we got to talk about, how did you get started? I mean, obviously, we talked a little bit off the record about, your upbringing, your background. You're not from Atlanta. I just assumed you were, because that's where a lot of the talent comes from.
Right.
But you're from the Bay.
I'm from the Bay Area, for sure.
Yeah.
Born and raised San Francisco proper. And I moved here to Atlanta my freshman year of college. Went to Clark Atlanta University, studied television, radio, film. And literally my sophomore year in Atlanta, saw a flyer, I think on campus, of people looking for interns at a studio called Patchwerk Recordings. Pulled a little tab, old school.
Yeah.
Called the number, and Kurt was like, yeah, come on in, we'll do an interview. Came in, interviewed, hired me on the spot for an internship. And I was here for 8 years.
Wow.
So I was at the old location at 995 McMillan. We moved here to 1094 Hemp Hill. Helped literally pick out a lot of this decor, these Herman Miller chairs.
Wow.
Literally, I come in, I'm like, oh, the floors are the same. Okay. Still got the same. I mean, but it's such a beautiful property, and this was an airplane hangar, you know what I mean, or something like that. It was a big storehouse, when he found the property. So here with him and Bob and, BJ and Clay and it was
the original.
It's always been a family. Always been a family. I haven't seen many of them in many, many years, but it's all family, all love.
I love that.
Yeah.
So what made you make the decision to move across the country to go to school? Why Clark?
San Francisco was very integrated. My high school was, I went to a academic high school, straight A student, well, A and B student. And it was very integrated. So I really wanted to be around my people. And I had heard about, I didn't even do a college tour, but I kept hearing about Morris Brown and Clark Atlanta and Spelman. And my god sister graduated a year before me, and she went to Spelman, and she's like, sis, you got to come out here. So, I was like, maybe I'll just take a leap. So I applied, and I got into 6 other colleges, a couple in California and a couple in the South as well. But I was like, I really want to try Atlanta. For me, it was running away from home. It was running away from what I knew I didn't want. Mm-hmm. And I wanted to write my own destiny, my own legacy. And so I was like, this is what I don't want to be, and this is what I don't want to do. So I'm going to go the hell over here and figure some other thing out.
Right.
So, yeah.
So, as a freshman, as a sophomore, when you first started to apply for your internships, when you reached out to Patchwerk, what were you looking for? What were your interests? I know I actually studied the same thing, radio, TV, and film. So, and similarly ran away to Howard from Atlanta. So,
Yeah.
and ended up back here.
Yeah.
But what were you thinking when you were applying or looking for internships early on?
Honestly, even choosing my field, TV, radio, film, I wanted to be in the music business. That was my dream. They didn't have a music business, major back then.
Right.
So for me, I was like, oh, well, radio was the closest thing to it. Maybe I'll become a radio DJ or something like that, or be a radio host. And so then when I got into the actual major, and sophomore year, you're still kind of doing your basic studies. But I was just trying to stay busy. I was always, very studious and the nerdy girl, even though I was kind of hip, I was still the nerd chick. And so I just was trying to keep my time occupied, and I wanted to make money. Like I lived off of student loans. My parents didn't have money to send me to college. So I got student loans, and I got a bunch of scholarships for writing to get me through my first semester. My first semester, I got straight A's at Clark. Then they gave me an academic scholarship for the rest of my run.
Nice.
There. So, but I still had to get loans to live because, again, my parents couldn't afford to send me to get me an apartment and that kind of stuff.
Right.
So, so basically, to answer your question, I chose TV, radio, film because it was the closest thing to music, and music has always been my love. My mom was a backup singer, like from Motown when she was like 19 back in the day, and so I was raised around music. Music has kind of always reverberated in my spirit, and I always wanted to be like a dancer or a singer. But I feel like if you're going to be a singer, be a Whitney or a Patty. I wasn't either, so I was like, I'll just be behind the scenes and do the other stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so that's how I came about the major. Yeah.
So let's talk about your relationship to Patchwerk.
Yeah.
You spent 8 years here.
Yeah.
I'm sure there were a lot of things you learned from interning to getting on staff. What was that process like?
I mean, it's probably just similar to what it is today. Curtis is a taskmaster. To this day, we had dinner the other night, and he is my big brother. But the process of promoting was, I was interning, and then I became, I think, just a staffer, and then I became assistant manager, then I was manager, and literally I was like chomping at his heels, like, what can I do? What can I do? And before long, at that 8-year mark, he's like, you got to go because can't take my job. Ain't nothing else to do here. Like, know it all. So, but I did learn a lot to your point. It was my first time having a complete staff. A staff, I think of that time, maybe it was 7 or 8 people that I was overseeing. And so I learned a lot about business and how to do a startup in a lot of ways. Patchwerk was on the come up and was pretty successful at 995, but moving over here, it was a whole transition. So it was almost like starting the company all over again because we couldn't operate at full capacity the way we did over there. We were expanding. And so growing with the business was huge for me. And I think it did put me in an entrepreneurial mindset that I didn't come to Atlanta having. Again, my father, was a construction worker. My mom was a businesswoman. And so, but I didn't have that entrepreneurial thing. I did, but I was never taught that, I should say.
Gotcha.
So, so the process was, I just worked my hiney off here, and this became my life. Kurt was very much, and I've been so blessed in my career and just in my life in general. Like, I've had a lot of strong men who have just stood by me and said, here's what you do, here's what you don't do. And he was very adamant about, excuse me, if you're going to be here, you don't fraternize with the clientele. I got hit on a lot, and it was always no, 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 no. And, I could have probably had a whole different life had I said yes to some of those offers to some of the clients because, the biggest of the big come through these doors, but he was always like, listen, if you want to be a woman of integrity and you want to be about your business, you need to be about your business and earn your keep, and you're not going to sleep your way to get to nowhere. And so those principles that as a big brother he was teaching me as a young woman, I was like, why are you all in my business?
Right.
Thanks, Dad. But they were lessons and things that I needed to hear and that a lot of us as young women need to hear because we really do have so much power that we don't tap into because sometimes we just fall back on other things.
Right. Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. I had the same thoughts.
Yeah.
So while you were interning, though, let's go back because you were also taking up other internships and working Working.
Yeah, I mean,
So, like, talk about some of those things. I know you said you mentioned you worked at HICO. You also worked at LaFace.
yeah. So when I was interning here, I was also interning at LaFace Records. And the publicity department is where I started, and then I moved over into, um, no, I think I started in promotion, ended up in publicity department. I interned at LaFace for 2 years. And they didn't really, it was like a $50 stipend they gave you a month or something for your MARTA card. Like, it wasn't much. And you're only supposed to intern,
Excuse me.
about to do the same thing. You're only supposed to intern there, I think at the time, for 3 months, I think it was. I stayed for 2 years.
Wow.
Because I literally was that hungry and thirsty for knowledge, and bounced around to a couple of different departments. And that was a second family. And so, yes, I was taking a full load at Clark Atlanta, 18 credits. I was interning at Patchwerk, and then I was also interning at LaFace Records. I was doing so many different things because I was trying to find out what I wanted to do. I wasn't clear. I mean, you graduate from high school and you're like, okay, I'm going to go and do life. And then you get into college, and then you graduate college. You're like, okay, now what?
Right.
All I've done is school.
Right.
I've not been trained or apprenticed under anyone per se. So what do I really want to do? So I was interning, trying to learn from these different people, like Shakir Stewart, who was my boss at HICO. I also worked there as well. And, for a year and a half, him and Dilla and LaRonda Sutton, like, just amazing, people in the business that were killing the fucking game back then, And, they were doing the publishing for like Beyonce when she was still in Destiny's Child. So Sam Salter, like all these amazing artists, working with Toni Braxton, TLC, and Outkast and Goody Mob. Like, it was a dream come true, and it was something that felt so natural. It wasn't something that, some people are like, oh my God, I'm working with so-and-so, and there goes so-and-so.
Yeah.
It always felt so natural to me, and I felt very comfortable and just wanted to learn and figure out what my niche was.
Right.
So, yeah.
That's what's up. I feel like what I am noticing about your story is that you're very, not only just diligent, but you had some level of balance to juggle all of those things. So could you talk about what that looks like even today for you, being that you're executively producing shows? I mean, I'm sure you have a team similar to having a team at Patchwerk, but sounds like a lot, especially for somebody who was in college, balancing all of those things.
Yeah. I think for me, it was a way to stay out of trouble, to stay busy, Like, parents put their kids in all the sports, so they're like, if you're doing all this, you ain't gonna be doing this over here.
Right.
And for me, it was that hunger to succeed. And I wanted to make something of myself and make something for myself. And I wanted to make a name for myself, My grandmother raised me largely, so I wanted to make her proud. She died when I was 13, but and I just really wanted to do something and leave a mark, And so I can't tell you beyond that what the drive was. It was just, get it, girl, get it.
Do you feel like you've left a mark?
I hope so. I think my mark that I've left so far has been with people. I feel like every person that you meet, or at least have a lengthy interaction with, if you haven't left them better, then you really haven't done a whole lot. And so for me, I believe heavily in mentorship. I believe heavily in bringing, my sisters up and my brothers up as well, and putting them on and giving them gigs and opportunities, and just a shot. That's all you need, is a freaking shot, And so I'm like, I'll give you a chance, shoot your shot. And if you make it, great, and I can't necessarily carry you, but I'm gonna definitely do my best to help. You know what I'm saying? I had some of that coming up myself. And so it is each one teach one. We all need somebody. But to speak to your question about balance, I think I've always been one who's been heavily, a heavy believer in self-care. And so I've always been like Erika Badu-ish, like esoteric and meditating and praying. And, I come from, a praying grandmother and church background and that kind of stuff. And so, I stayed balanced in the way of just really being true and authentic to who I am. And I think I've only matured in that way. And I think that's why my path has kind of laid out the way that it has, because I do trust that the God in me knows what's right and knows if I'm in doubt, then don't. You know what I mean? And if I have split energy about it, then maybe I should just wait a minute, sit still and be still about it, So I think that balance comes from spirituality, honestly.
Absolutely. So back at Patchwerk, you kind of briefly talked about this, but Curtis forced you to leave.
Yes.
After 8 years, he forced you to leave. He says nothing else you can do. Why do you think he did that?
Because he said, this is like school and you don't stay in school forever. And I had my wings. I just didn't know if they worked. And I was afraid to use them. And so I think he had to push me out of the nest. And, the first year I flailed and was like skydiving, like going head first to the freaking cement. I really had to figure it out, and so I was stronger than I knew that I was. And he saw it in me and I didn't see it in myself because he saw literally, like, I think for him it may have hit when he had gone on vacation with his first wife, Chelsea, God rest her soul. And they were, I think, in Jamaica, and 9/11 happened. And I had to run Patchwerk by myself for like 9-10 days without him being here. And literally it was just me running it and booking sessions and making sure the staff was straight and we're clean. You know the process here.
Yeah.
Like, it ain't no joke.
Yeah.
He runs a well-oiled machine. And after that, he's like, shh, like, oh, all right.
The
So
place hasn't burned down.
exactly. And for me at that point, I saw as well that, oh, I can do this, So
Did you doubt yourself in those moments?
Absolutely. Even today, like when I get bumps and titles and promotions and things like that, I'm like, oh God, here we go. And it's a brief moment of that. But I also know that all of my energy and my self-talk before that has been, girl, you got this. Like, God ain't gonna give you more than what you can handle. And you were built for this and you were made for this. So when it happens, I'm like, oh crap, I really manifested that. Okay, here we go.
Right.
And then I'm like, okay, let's ride it out. But yeah, I think he pushed me out of the nest because he knew that I could do it. And, and I literally had to fast and pray for 3 days because he was like, either you're going to take a enormous pay cut, and I wasn't getting paid a whole lot of money, or you leave and take a small severance. And I'm like, okay. So I had a lot on the line. I had 2 houses. Him and Bob helped me buy my first house here in Atlanta. And then I gotten a second house, a townhome. So I was renting out the first house. So I had a lot on the line. And like I said, I flailed about for that first 8 months. Boyfriend dumped me. It was bad. It was bad. Friends that I thought were my friends that, were part of this culture of Patchwerk fell off, didn't reach out, that kind of thing. And so it was really a growth process for me. And it made me more self-reliant, but not bitter and not resentful, because I was like, people do come into your life for a reason, season, or lifetime. And that season was over for those people, And so I just gave thanks and just kept on pushing. And then I ended up working for Tyler Perry.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And
Diary of a Mad Black Woman.
yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I was his executive assistant. He was midway through the film when I came on board. And
how did you land that gig?
Interesting story, actually. Kind of long, but I'll try and shorten it.
Cool.
A friend of mine, an old photographer, I used to model as well on the side here in Atlanta, do some print work. And so he was taking photos of me and he's like, hey, do you know who Tyler Perry is? And I was like, no. He said, he's this amazing playwright. He does these, kind of chitlin circuit kind of plays. And I'm like, no, never heard of him. And so, he showed me, he gave me a DVD and I watched it and I was like, okay, cool. Not my brand of humor. I'm more of a Seinfeld kind of girl, whatever, but I was like, pro, like he was doing his thing and he's like, he's looking for an assistant. And I was like, well, I've never done that. He's like, but you ran Patchwerk. Like you ran, helped, working at Hitco. You also worked at D-Lo. You helped run D-Lo Studios for Rashida and Kirk back, at the same time. Like it was a lot of stuff going on. And he's like, so you can do this. I'm like, all right. So I interviewed with him, with the vice president, Pierre at the time. And then I interviewed with Tyler. And he was very stoic, but we got along. We're both Virgos. So we clicked, and then went away, came back for a second interview. And then I got a call and was like, hey, Tyler wants to offer you the job. Hey, Curdy. and I said no. Literally another friend of mine. And this is that spirituality thing. My friend Cedric, he was building his own company, an entertainment company. And he had these like 5 projects on the table. And so he's like, I really want you to come on board and I want you to be a producer. I didn't know what a producer was. I'm
Right.
like, I came from the music business. I'm just trying this thing out. I have a degree in this shit, but I don't know what the fuck I'm doing.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
Excuse my foul language.
No, you're
And
fine.
so,
We curse on here. It's fine.
and so, you know, so I tell him no. And I end up going with some friends to help for a Falcons like golf tournament. And Tyler's like, listen, I want to hire you for this. He's like, if you're going to go on this trip, I want to hire you next week. I was like, well, I need to pray and fast about this because I have another offer on the table. He's like, okay, well, let me know. So I go away for that weekend, come back, prayed, had a dream that I was supposed to be working for this other guy, that I was on a movie set with this other guy, like doing stuff and like not that I knew what the job was, but I was working. So I was like, okay, God, so you're saying to go this route. So I go back and I call Tyler and I'm like, hi, Mr. Perry, Erika Bryant, we spoke and I just wanted to let you know that I'm going to decline the offer. And he's like, what? Do you know who I am? And I said, yes, I've heard and I'm so honored, but I did pray. You're a praying man, from what I understand. And I prayed about it. And I just got in my spirit that I'm supposed to take this other job. He was like, well, God told me that you belong with me. So when that doesn't work out, you call me back.
Oh,
right?
Wow.
Girl, literally.
That's crazy.
3 months passed. And that didn't work out, the other situation. So I called Pierre back and I said, hey, so, you guys interviewed me a few months ago and that situation is kind of dissolved. And I'm just wondering if you're still open to having me. And he's like, stand by, let me call you back. Call me back in 15 minutes. He said, I spoke with Tyler and he didn't like anyone as much as he liked you. And so he didn't hire anyone. So the spot is still there if you want it. We would like you to start on Monday.
Wow.
So God held that for me.
That's rare.
Rare. And so I ended up working for Tyler, for about almost a year, about 8-9 months. And that was during he did Diary of a Mad Black Woman. Then he got the huge deal. I think it was like a 6-film deal. And for me, it was a great stepping stone to do that position as executive assistant because one, I'd always been around celebrities, but not of his caliber. He's a self-made, guy. And TV and film was something that was very foreign to me, even though that was my major. Mm-hmm. At school, you learn how to wrap the freaking cords. You learn the lighting was the most important, love the lighting and all that. But I didn't learn any tactile skills, so I didn't know what job I wanted to do. Mm-hmm. And so working with him, it just got me in all these different elements and seeing what that was. And then literally after I left that company, it was like another 8 months I began PAing. So this is the funny part. This is a transition where it comes. So I go from being here at Patchwerk for 8 years and working my way up from being an intern. And I'm literally, like I said, chopping at Curtis's heels. And I'm like, what can I do? You can't be the owner. You can't run the place. So you got to go. Then I work for Tyler, which is great. But now as getting into television, I have to start from the bottom. So I started as a production assistant. Mm-hmm. So I go to making like $100 a day. And which I have 2 houses, mind you. I'm trying to figure this thing out. I'm like struggling, like on the like the whole thing. It was a dark time. Mm-hmm. But it provided such an amazing contrast because it made me shoot these rockets of desire and dreams that were like, I wasn't sure if they were going to come to pass, but I was like, okay, I know I don't want this. So I know I want that, know? And so basically, I started PAing. And so one of my first PA gigs was working on My Goodies, a video set.
Wow.
Video shoot, I should say, P.D. Pablo, Sierra. Mm-hmm. And they were our clients here. Yeah. So imagine how humbling it was for me to go from literally, hey,
booking
you, sitting in the office, I'm going over your invoice, someone's cutting me a check, blah, 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 to pay your bill, to going to being on your video set and I'm picking up trash and water bottles. And hey, can I help you with anything? So, and that was God too, because and I don't resent that. It's so, I was 27 at the time, starting that new career.
Wow.
So, starting from the bottom and working my way all the way back up. And literally as of a week ago, now I'm an executive producer and took 13 years to get to this place. All blessings. That's so thankful. So thankful.
Wow. So it's like, how do you even navigate? And you kind of explained it a little bit, but navigating in the TV and film space versus music, because music is like, I'm sure it's similar. Like there are a lot of relationship building. There's a lot of like, who your network is your net worth. But I think they're still two very different spaces. So how would you describe navigating through TV and film over the next course of those 13 years?
I always said, at least in my mind, I felt like music was always my first love, and television film was its first cousin. And so for me to transition into it, I wanted to do music-based shows. So like Pussycat Dolls and TLC, Are You the Girl? Like I was working on a lot of shows that still had the musical element to it because that's kind of what just feeds my soul. Yeah, But navigating that, for me, I felt like I very well could have left Patchwerk and tried to pursue the music piece here in Atlanta. At that time, in my mind, music was changing. That was the beginning of, MP3s and, streaming. It was the very beginning of that. And I don't think I knew enough about it because Patchwerk is such a factor in building the music. Beyond that, even though I worked at LaFace, I wasn't an executive at LaFace. So I wasn't in those meetings to know how that stuff worked. So I basically felt like I didn't have the knowledge or the experience to really take that out and go and apply somewhere, like a label, if you will. I had some connections, but even back then I didn't understand the importance of networking. I didn't use that to my advantage. I had a Rolodex of probably 800 people and just never utilized it because it didn't, that was the one, I think, faltering thing back then. But navigating it, for me, television had, radio in my mind was like a 2-lane highway. Television is like a 6-lane freeway, meaning I could go in so many different directions and pick my lane and just ride that sucker out. And the turnover that I saw in Atlanta with the music executives and what was going on, it was a lot. It was, kind of dog eat dog. And that's just not how I'm built. I'm not a competitive person in that way. I'm not, on some, I'm gonna get it before she get it, or I'm not a crab I'm just not. That's not how I'm built. And so for me, I was like, let me just pick a lane. Let me figure out. I'm gonna master that shit and I'm gonna rock it. And that's what I've done. I tried to do. Yeah.
So how does someone become an executive producer of a show?
Girl, there are many roads. There are many, many roads. My road has been very, it's been charmed, honestly. It's been a lot of hours, a lot of hard work. The industry has changed even for television and reality, especially in the past 13 years. When I started, like I said, even on that Goodies video said, I worked 27 hours. I made $100, 27 hours. And I'm a freelancer. So you're not like, there's nowhere, they don't have work, There's nowhere to sue anybody. You're like, you can't work me like this. Like, no, you're signing up for this torture. 27 hours that video shoot was. I got there at 7 a.m. and left literally. Same thing. I was a PA on Rashida's video set, as well, saying she was a client. I used to run her studio, but I'm a PA on her, Or she was actually I think she was rapping on someone else's song actually for that video. But anyway, I forgot the question, child. What was the question?
How do you become an executive producer of a show?
A lot of hours. It was a lot of hours, and it's having focus. It's trying things on, and if it doesn't fit, then taking it off and putting something else on. I think sometimes we can be afraid of choosing wrong or doing it wrong or failure, and there's nothing wrong with that. You know what I mean? You don't understand the bliss until sometimes you've experienced the misery, And so for me, it's just been definitely treating people well, even when they don't treat me well. It's been networking for sure. It's been pulling people up and putting people on. Because here's the thing. Someone told me, a good friend of mine told me, on the way up, you have to be very careful how you treat people. I believe heavily in karma. And he said to me, his name is George Fuller. He's actually Patty Shaka Khan's manager. Oh. And good friend of mine. And he said, when I was working for Tyler Perry, he said to me, you have to be really careful of the toes you step on the way up because it may be attached to the ass you have to kiss later. Mm. And I never forgot that. And so for me, I've always just tried to be kind and just hardworking, like showing up on time. That was something that Curtis hammered into us. Like if you 15 minutes early, you actually are late. So, that kind of stuff, just really being diligent about your craft and and caring about your craft. I mean, I feel like sometimes even some of the people that I hire on certain shows, I'm like, you have to have integrity about what you do. Is this the best? Is this your excellence? Is this your 100%? If it's not, then why the fuck are you here? Like, you can't just put any old thing out there. Your name is all you have. And so I think for me, I really treasure my name and I value my name. And as we said at the start of this, I'm not my title.
Yeah.
I'm Erika Bryant. And, I'm thankful to be a vessel and to be here for however long I'm here and to be doing what I love to do. And that's my gift.
What would you say, or why is representation in media and these spaces as a Black woman important to you? Because, I mean, we talked about mentorship. We talked about, you putting your sisters on, putting them in a position to, shoot their shot.
Yeah.
Why do you think that representation and being not just a woman, but a Black woman in these spaces important?
I mean, it's important for us to be in all spaces, Women, we are so powerful and we don't always know and understand the depth of our power and how to channel that power. And I think being in these rooms, our stories haven't always been told accurately, if told at all.
Mm-hmm.
And, for me, it's important for us to be in the room because a lot of times these decisions about how we're being portrayed are being made by people that are not us and don't truly understand us. They have a very minuscule view of who we are and what we're made of and what makes us tick, And so for me, I think it's important for us to be in these roles because no one else can tell our story the way that we do. And I may not be able, or we may not be able to write it the way that we want it to be written. And like if we were to do it ourselves in those positions, but we can definitely offer the perspective, and, recently, I was in the past, 6 months to a year, I was in a room and I literally sat back and was like, wow, I am the only woman of color in this room and person of color in this room. So a lot of times for me, I've been the only Black person and the only Black woman on a whole show, in a sea of people, of a staff of 50 to 100 people, just me.
Wow.
And that's a heavy mantle to carry because I do represent us in those moments. And so I have a different criteria to live up to. And I think I answered that question, but I want to just put this on the back end of it, is that when we do get a chance to get into those rooms, and if we are the only one, yes, hold the door open if you can get somebody else in. But more importantly, know that we are held to a different standard. You can't go and get white girl wasted with your coworkers and come to work the next day and be hungover because Becky can do it. But they're going to look at you like, well, Erika, are you feeling okay? We just get it's a different lens that we're viewed through. And so I don't think that's always accounted for. And, we just have to keep that in mind as women and as men of color. Like, it's just a different criteria that we are, or different mantle that we have to carry.
Definitely.
Yeah.
So as you know, there's a certain studio etiquette or here in a recording studio, like for artists, producers, engineers, that, people swear by. Would you say that same goes for being on set? And if so, what are some pet peeves that you tend to have and things that you be sure to tell somebody if it was their first time on set of a production?
There's definitely some etiquette. Being on time for sure. If when you come to at least the sets that I've been on, and I haven't done a lot of film, I've done mainly television and unscripted television at this point. I'm looking to go into putting that out in the universe.
Yes, manifest. Manifest.
Yes, ma'am. But there definitely is etiquette. Timeliness, is definitely a pet peeve. Because here's the thing. You are not, when you're called to work at a certain time, it's not just about you. There are other people and other things that are factoring into that. So we can't shoot a scene if you're on time, if you're late, or we can't get the scene going or whatever is going on. And so timeliness for sure. Wearing open-toed shoes, if you're a crew member. It's dangerous. There's a lot of heavy equipment and crazy equipment around. I've seen, there was one young lady that I hired in LA about probably like 3-4 years ago. And she would come to work with like half naked, Here's the thing. Another thing, we as women, have power. We have sexual power too. And especially with the Me Too movement, we just have to be mindful of how we're presenting ourselves in our work environments because men are men, they're visual creatures. And so, and a lot of them are married. You know what I mean? We just have to be mindful and be classy about your shit is all I care. I'm not like, oh, you have to wear a uniform, but just keep it tight. You know what I mean? Wear a bra.
Yeah, that's
just
important.
Proper. Just wear a bra. Wear one that fits. So I mean, but aside from that, just come to work to do work. It's not a time to socialize. I mean, and let me say something about me. Like the way I run my sets, we have a good time. Like we play music, we get each other going in the morning. You know what I mean? When that's allowed. This show that we're doing right now is a house show, so the kids, real world, they run. We kind of wait for them to wake up and then it starts going. But normally, like on my sets, I try to be a fun boss and lighthearted, and people should come to work every day and have fun. And that's what I try to implement.
Sweet. So you mentioned earlier, and we're going to get into like just handling the business part of this space. For me, I'm not extremely familiar, but you did mention that you had an agent. Mm-hmm. So I wasn't even aware that you as a producer or like from behind the scenes needed an agent. Yeah. So why is that important for you? How does that like propel you in your career?
Well, I mean, and everyone doesn't necessarily have to take that path. For me, I wanted an agent. When you get to the level of a supervising producer or higher, it's good to have an agent as a freelance producer. Gotcha. Because agents they just have a wider scope of what's going on. And you can definitely always promote yourself, but you're finding jobs on like Staff Me Up and rarely Craigslist anymore. That used to be the big thing.
Yeah.
But mainly like Staff Me Up is a big one. And your competition is thick. Like, you know what I mean? So, but as you begin to work your way up, that competition is not as many people, but it's still heavy competition. And so if you have a representation by an agency that can really promote you and put out there what your brand is, like I have a certain brand, I won't do certain shows. They'll be like, hey, so-and-so called. No, I'm not doing that show. That doesn't speak to my spirit. I can't perform at my best on that particular kind of show because that's just not how I rock. And so, and no offense to the people that do take them, because I have friends on some of those shows, but it's really a thing of the point of it is that the representation of an agent, just like an artist, puts you out there and helps you negotiate your money for you. So you don't have to deal with some of that uncomfortable conversation. They deal with all that stuff for you.
Gotcha. So how do you handle your business and getting paid? And like, I'm sure it's a lot of paperwork that's done prior to, or, like what does that look like for somebody in your position?
So I incorporated myself in 2012. And so I have my own company called Stone and Sky Productions.
Stone and Sky?
Stone and Sky.
Stone and Sky.
Stone and Sky Productions.
Nice.
And so all of my jobs, all my money's funneled through that company.
Gotcha.
And then my company pays me a salary per year. So that's kind of just how I handle my paperwork. And it's when you're a freelance producer, you want to make all the money you can. I mean, they take a crap ton of taxes out of your check. So as a company, you get your full rate and then you get paid a salary and you're taxed on that. So it's good business practice, to operate as a business because I am a business. I am loaning out my services to this company for that purpose.
Gotcha.
So people that are producers that are, I wouldn't do it before the title of producer. Like if you're, it's like a PA, then you have an AP, then there's segment producer, then field producer, then senior producer, then supervising producer, then co-executive producer, then there's executive producer. Wow. So literally over 13 years, I had to
work your way
chip all the way up. But I wouldn't say get an actual company just because it costs like $3,000 or something to do it until you're an actual producer and you can negotiate a higher rate and then you can start getting, that money funneled in that way.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So as a freelance producer, how to freelance as a producer? Like when will you see the next gig? Is that an awkward time in between? Like what are you doing in between time?
So when you're a freelance producer, you literally, it's a leap of faith. It's a faith career. It's not for the faint of heart at all. You literally eat what you kill. And if you don't kill shit, you ain't eating.
Right.
So there have been times, like when I first moved to LA, I moved to LA with $900, and that was my mortgage payment. And I skipped my mortgage payment to get my plane ticket to go to LA. And I was supposed to be there for 2 months to work on America's Next Top Model. And I've been there for 13 years.
Wow.
Never moved back. But I was supposed to go for 2 months. But literally, it's a leap of faith. And so you have to take a chance on yourself. You know what I mean? If you bet on yourself, you never lose, they say. And so, to answer that question, I think it's just, between jobs, you are looking for more jobs. And you're looking for a job before that first job ends. So, a month out, a person like myself with an agent, a month before I'm rapping, I'm calling my agent, hey, what's popping? Anybody calling for me? Yeah, we got calls about this one. You want to have an interview? So before I got the call for the show that I just picked up, I was interviewing for another pilot for, Netflix and stuff like that. So I'm, you literally, you're a hustler. You are your biggest advocate. And your agent, they do negotiate for you, but honestly, my hard work has gotten me the follow-up work.
Right.
And they negotiate my money and I pay them for that service. But my agent's like, he's like, Erika, all you gotta do is show up in the room and you get the job. He's like, you make my job easy. So I'm paying him 10% for what now? I don't know. What's going on? It's a lot of freaking money. So,
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
So what's one thing you wish you knew then that you know now?
Then as in music, then as in when I started?
As in when you started, like if you were just, not just like in production, but just that eager freshman just wanting to get into the entertainment business.
I wish I had known that I could be and do and have anything that I want back then. And I also wish that I knew the importance of my connections. You know what I mean? I think interacting with the hundreds, thousands of people that I came across through these doors and through the doors at 995 McMillan, my career probably would have had a different trajectory and I probably would have been on, you know what I'm saying, forever ago. But I do not resent my path. I'm so thankful and this is the perfect journey, and it really is not about the destination. It really is the journey, and I'm excited to see where this journey continues to take me.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I don't think that you should have done anything differently, honestly. Your story is really inspiring.
Thank you.
So, and then last but not least, advice you'd give to budding producers or just if they're in the PA space right now and they're working, chipping away at that ladder, as you say, on where to start and how to get their foot in the door.
Where to start? It's different now. I started looking at Craigslist. That's where I found my jobs on gigs, honestly. Right. Staff me up. Literally just, sometimes it's, I don't even know how to answer that piece of it, how to start, because the game has changed so tremendously.
Or how do you see people starting now? Like what is...
the kids that come onto our set, they kind of fall into my lap, honestly. I get random emails on LinkedIn, you know what I mean? Or friends of friends or nieces of somebody I used to work with. So that's kind of how I get a lot of the people that I know. But I think they do still post on Craigslist, to be honest with you, because I know my production manager, that's where he finds a lot of our PAs. But it's put yourself out there. The advice is be willing to do the unattractive job. No job is too small. Even me as an executive producer, I'll come on set. If I see some shit laying around, I'm picking it up. But I learned that here at Patchwerk. You can't just step over some trash, you know what I mean, and act like you didn't see it.
Right.
This is our
space.
And so you have to respect that. And so, I'll come on set and I'm like, hey. And they're like, oh, no, Erika, don't carry nothing. I'm like, no, I can help.
I can do this.
But they're like, no, boss lady. And I'm like, no. Thank you. I appreciate that. But I'm with y'all. We are a team. You know what I mean? So... But I think the advice that I would give is to work and perform like someone's always watching, because someone always is. And I know I got a couple of jobs because I was busting my ass on set, like just going above and beyond, and always look busy. What I can't stand is if I'm on set and I see a PA sitting on their phone. Like it ain't 100 things going on. You better look busy. You better go move some chairs back and forth or go stock up some craft services or look like you're doing something, because if you have that much time, then why are you here?
Right.
So those would be my pieces of advice.
Sweet. I do have to ask this one last thing because
Yes.
we didn't get to it. Back when you were at Patchwerk, the studio flooded.
Yes, Lord. That was like Noah's Ark. Yes.
What were y'all doing? How was that? How did it...
Oh my God. I think
I know y'all were like trying to save tapes. Like,
I'm trying to remember where I was living, because I know I had to come back in. I wasn't at work. I think it happened in the middle of the night and I had to drive back here. And when we got here, the basement was flooded. And I'm only 5 feet tall. I'm a little thing now. And this thing, the water was like up to my calf.
Oh, wow.
And so we literally had almost one of those, just like a chain gang kind of a thing. We were passing reels up the stairs, like from there and running them up and trying to put them in higher places, just literally trying to say, this is priceless, stuff that we had, like people's music on 2-inch reels that were irreplaceable, like priceless stuff. And so that was scary. It was scary. But what it showed me was how much of a family we really were. You don't really know how close you are as a family until you kind of go through some shit. And we were all here. Mike, me, Curtis, Josh, Bob, everybody. I think BJ, we were all here and trying to make it work, and we banded together. Because here's the thing. I mean, the thing about a family is that it should be, if, like JC says in his song, like, I ain't rich until we all rich kind of a thing. And so if I fail, we all fail. And if Patchwerk, if one person had gone under or the studio flooded and we were out of business, then we were all out of business. And so it's just, it proved to me, the kind of family that we were. You can have all kinds of families, but what kind of family we were is what that night proved to me. And it was a recovery process, and it was a rebuilding process. And, but it was also scary, because we lost a lot of money, but thankfully we never lose the clientele because customer service, people always come back for that.
Absolutely. So what's next? What's next for Erika Bryant?
I just asked my good friend that. He sent me a text and he was like, I was praying about you and I'm so proud of you. I'm so happy for you. And I was like, I know, now what? Now what? Now what we gonna do? Now what? So, sky's the limit. I want to do it all. I would love to. I've dabbled in film a little bit. My cousin is a film director and film writer and producer, and so I've worked a little bit with her. But I would love to get into scripted. Curtis is back there doing the ring motion on his finger. We gonna see.
We getting married soon?
We don't know. We gonna see. I ain't asking him. That's for damn sure. We don't do that. We're not that kind of woman. We are old fashioned. She will be asked, and she will say yes. Yes, bend the knee. But no, I'm open. I'm so open. I really am a vessel, and I'm so thankful to be doing something that I love. And I stumbled into it, even though something in me must have known to choose this major in college, because I had no intention of working in television. Zero. And the only reason that I'm here is because that man sitting over there pushed me out of Patchwerk. Because I would have tried to figure out how to I don't know, build a patchwork on top of patchwork, and like we keep expanding and do floors, I was like, let's go build one in LA. You know what I mean? I was really trying to hold on to the night, like, Lord Jesus, don't let it go, because I didn't know who I was or what I looked like outside of this, and I had to find out. And I think she's pretty cool.
Yeah, I
dig
think
her.
so too.
I dig her. I like who she's becoming.
I do too. I'm happy for all of your success and the continued success for you. And we gonna be speaking on that ring soon as well.
Yes, would love that.
I would love to see it.
Yeah.
So tell them where they can find you, get in touch on social media.
So I am private on social media because I'm a leader, but I don't really need followers like that. I don't know, it's not my thing. But Facebook is Bryant, Erika Bryant. I'll accept you on Facebook, probably not on Instagram, so don't take offense. Just honest. Just because I post a lot of personal stuff on there, and I don't like troll. Literally everyone that follows me, I have met them or I've worked with them or I know them. There's probably 20 people that follow me that I've never met before. And that's honest. And I have like 700 followers. Like I ain't got no followers. So, but
I understand. Some people want to keep their stuff separate.
Yeah, but Facebook, you can find me on there. And then, just shout me out on the street if you see me, say, hey, what's up? What's cracking?
Perfect. Thank you so much for sitting down with
me. Thank
me.
you for having me.
Yes.
It's an honor to be here, and I love this place, and I love Curtis and Bob, and they took a chance on the little girl from the Bay Area.
And I'm sure they don't regret it.
Hey, absolutely. We hope not. More to come, baby. More to come.
More to come. So as always, you guys can follow this podcast at IDM Podcast, as well as myself at Sammy Approved on all social media platforms. Thank you. Sonically superior.